Scene opens, family dinner table, warm lighting, laughter faintly echoing, silverware clinking against china. I smiled and said, "Yeah, Grandpa." I loved it, and in that moment, I hated myself for lying. Not because the car was awful, not because I didn't appreciate the gesture, but because he didn't give it to me. Not really. He thought he did. He believed, with that soft, crinkled smile of his and those cataract-clouded eyes, that the blue Honda Civic parked in my college dorm lot was from him, but it wasn't. It never was. Let me rewind a bit. A year ago, when I turned 20, I was the only one in the family who didn't own a car. My cousins had flashy Mustangs, lifted Jeeps, even Teslas their parents leased for them. And me, I rode the bus, I walked, I made excuses not to attend family events because I hated arriving like that. On foot, the poor girl. My parents weren't well off, not broke, but not in the realm of gifting cars either. My father worked 2 jobs, my mother cleaned houses. They gave me everything they could, but sometimes love isn't enough to keep the shame from seeping into your bones. One night, my mom was crying in the kitchen. I heard her whispering to my dad, "He deserves better," she said. She shouldn't be humiliated every time there's a family get-together. My dad just sighed, exhausted. I know, but how? That night, I cried too. I hated that they were breaking themselves for me. So, when my grandfather, the patriarch of the family stoic, once rich, now fading, called me into his study that next week, I didn't expect much. His room smelled like leather, old books, and forgotten time. "Sit down, sweetheart," he said, motioning to the faded armchair. I wanted to ask, "Do you have a car?" I hesitated. Something in his tone felt off. "No, Grandpa, not yet," he hummed, tapping his fingers together. "Your cousins all do." That must be hard. I nodded, unsure where this was going. Then he said something that cracked me open. "I want to buy you one. For your birthday." Tears sprang to my eyes before I could stop them. "Really?" He smiled. Not the kind of smile people give when they're being generous, but one laced with guilt. Maybe regret. I should have done it earlier. I've been distant, too caught up in my own world. It's time I gave back. We talked for an hour. He asked what kind of car I liked, what color, where I'd want to shop. He even said he'd come along. For the first time, I felt seen. I left that room floating. The next day, he forgot, didn't call, didn't bring it up at dinner. When I mentioned it gently, he blinked, smiled, and changed the subject. I didn't think too much of it. He was old, right? Maybe busy, but the weeks turned to months. He never mentioned it again, and I never reminded him, not because I stopped wanting the car, but because I realized. He didn't remember the promise. Not at all. My grandfather was being swallowed by something no one wanted to say out loud. Alzheimer's, dementia, something that crept in quietly, soft as a whisper, but vicious as fire. We all noticed it in little ways. Calling me by my aunt's name, asking if my mom was still in school. Telling stories that blurred timelines, histories, people, and when I finally did get a car after saving every penny from my part-time job, and when my parents matched it with their own scraped-together funds, he was so thrilled, so convinced he bought it. He walked around it 3 times. Ran his hand across the hood like it was some precious sculpture. "I'm glad you like the present, sweetheart," he said proudly. I froze. My mom's face crumbled in slow motion behind him, and I just smiled and nodded. What else could I do? Say, "Actually, Grandpa, you didn't buy this. You forgot. You made a promise, and then the disease that's chewing at your mind like moths on fabric took it away from you. That would have destroyed him. So I didn't, and now here we were, present day, sitting at the long family dinner table. Everyone around us was laughing, passing dishes, pretending things were still whole." He turned to me with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes anymore and said, "Did you like the car I gave you as a present last year?" I smiled and said, "Yeah, Grandpa, I loved it," because love sometimes means lying. Sometimes it means sparing someone from the sharp edge of the truth. He grinned, looking so proud. He turned to Uncle Dan and whispered, "I still got it. Huh?" bought her a car before her dad could. My father's jaw tightened. He said nothing. Just raised his glass slightly and took a long sip. It wasn't fair. My dad worked himself half to death for that car. My mom skipped her own birthday celebration so we could afford the insurance, and now someone who forgot the promise got the credit. And yet, I couldn't be mad. Not really, because when I looked into Grandpa's eyes, I didn't see pride. I saw a man desperately clinging to the edges of a life unraveling. He wasn't boasting. He was grasping at moments he thought were real, memories he could barely touch. Trying to hold on to the idea that he was still the man he used to be. And if telling him he bought me the car gave him peace, then I'd tell him 1,000 times over. Later that night, as I was helping him to the couch, he paused in the hallway. Did I really give you that car? He asked, quieter this time. Almost like a child. I swallowed. You did, Grandpa. He nodded slowly. Then his eyes welled up. Good. I wanted to matter to you. That broke me. I hug him harder than I ever had before. You do, Grandpa. You always did. He cried quietly into my shoulder, and that was the moment I realized this wasn't about the car. It never was. It was about connection, love, legacy, and even if his mind forgot everything else, he remembered that he wanted to matter.